All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We continue with the State of the Nation conversation, and now we're shifting gears and talking about the cost of living. What are the solutions, the immediate intervention measures, because that is what everybody's talking about now. And Alwali, I'll start with you on this. Where do we go from here now? Kenyans are saying we are suffering now. The reality is, the cost of fuel has gone up. What is being done? That is what everybody keeps asking wherever we go. Stop with all the blame games. What is being done?
We are in a bad place, not as a government or as a nation, but today the entire world is faced with economic recession. Many reasons, but the most challenging was the 2 years when the world stopped working, thanks to COVID-19. Yeah. So we have to go through this phase of economic recession. It has happened in history. And as we learn from history, the world always comes out of recession. Number two, it is not helping African countries that we were doing brisk business with Ukraine. So the war and conflict in Ukraine has affected us. Thirdly, we have got our own local problems, own regional problems, which we ought to fix. They include, for example, the way the handshake government handled public debt. And clearly, you have seen in President Ruto's plan, he's consistently managing public debt. To the extent that unlike the handshake government, which used to meet recurrent expenditure using borrowing, we've managed to avoid borrowing to pay our salaries and other recurrent expenses. We are moving forward thanks to the forward-sightedness of President Ruto's government. We've been able to release all the money that is owed to county governments, and we are paying them every 15th of the month in the new financial year. We have released money to all people who did business with Constituency Development Fund, billions of shillings. It's been released. And we have been able to move the country during the very difficult times when people had gone to their farms to plant, give them cheaper fertilizer. Pamba harvest is now on the table. The food basket of Trans Nzoia now is starting to harvest this time, things are going to become better. But what is more important is that there is cabinet. I believe, just like we were in an economic recession during the time of President Mwai Kibaki, and President Mwai Kibaki introduced the economic stimulus, I'm confident that this is a strategy that the cabinet might opt to use to stimulate the economy, and things are going to be okay.
So an economic stimulus package.
It's an economic stimulus package.
Can we afford it at a time when the report by the Office of the Control of Budget says that we are giving a whooping 83% of all revenues collected to debt repayment? This was yesterday.
And that
so where do you get this economic stimulus package?
That is a part for us on the back, because we are correcting a wrong that was seeing us deeper and deeper into the hole. We have to keep our heads above the waters, otherwise you can get confused. If you don't pay that debt, as they say, public debt enjoys the first charge on the consolidated fund. So if you don't do that, our country can default on those debts, and then we'll have gone even deeper into trouble. So we are moving well. I'm confident that it's going to happen. People should ignore these utterances that are making them so discouraged. The senator of Nairobi has said it correctly, that the rise in VAT has contributed to this problem. But let me remind him that economic issues are so complex. They rely on so many factors that it cannot be VAT alone. If it was VAT alone, the other countries like Tanzania, like Uganda, Rwanda, and even in Africa in general, where the petrol price is also high, they have not raised their VAT. Okay. By a similar amount. So it cannot be just the VAT alone. It is a multifactorial challenge which we have to meet with our eyes open and when we are sober.
Okay. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the economic stimulus package for a bit, but let's bring in first, what are the possible...
First, there are things that we disagree and there are things that we agree. Khalwale, it is a fact that 79 shillings out of every litre of petrol in this country is tax. It is tax because it is itemized and you can tell that this is the percentage that is going to fuel levy, this is the percentage that is going to VAT. I gave you the example that the 8% increase that we added on the VAT for fuel is responsible for 14 shillings. Now, it is just a matter of math. If you have added 8% and it is resulting in an increase of 14 shillings, if you take away 8%, it should take away 14 shillings. We have argued with you that because of the economic situation in the country, we, in our own view, did not support the imposition of extra taxation on Kenyans at this point in time, because we need for the economy to recover, we need for people's pockets to recover. And it is having a negative effect. You have seen reports of major global conglomerates who operate in this country, manufacturers, shedding jobs. You have had it. You have had a reduction of taxes because Kenyans are consuming less. Even the petrol, it has had the opposite effect. The revenues that were expected to be raised by government are not being realized. It is also not true that the current regime is not borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure. The Control of Budget told us the other day that in the period between April and June, government debt grew by 860 billion. Essentially, we are fully 10 billion shillings a day. That is not me. That is the Control of Budget. We have also been told, Trevor, that because of the cost of living, the margin of increase in the cost of living, the cost of produce and the cost of goods, there has been a 24% increase on the cost of hospitality. The money that is spent by government on bashes and travel and entertaining. And you would not be surprised that the #1 government entity spending at least 2.3 billion shillings on hospitality is the office of a president. So don't let these people not tell us many stories. The very clear solution to this problem is known. First of all, we all need to tighten our belts. You cannot be asking Wanjiku, you cannot be asking Mama Mboga and Boda Boda to tighten their belts, yet your belt, you have even removed it and thrown it away. You are spending through 2.3 billion shillings. I gave you the example last time we were here. The office of the deputy president put out an advertisement for seafood, supply of seafood. What does Gachagua know about seafood? Huyu ni mtu wa Mutura. Anatafuta seafood ya nini, and it is at the expense of our taxpayers' money. You should cut that spending first before you tell Kenyans to tighten their belts, you know. So the problems are known, the solutions are known. We asked for a reprieve. We even told them that because Kenyans are suffering, please reinstate that subsidy. At some point, they tried to reinstate it. They reinstated it in part. Then they called it something else, fuel stabilization. Because these people, they fear doing the right thing because they say Sifuna and the opposition will take credit. That is not our intention. Our intention is not to say, oh, we were right and you were wrong. Please, just solve the Mwananchi problems. Let the country move on so that we can discuss other things. You asked a very important question about immediate things and interventions that we can do or we are proposing to do, so that Kenyans can feel some reprieve. Me and Khalwale are legislators. We sit in the Energy Committee. And we have interacted with one of the major pain points, which is not just the cost of fuel, but the cost of electricity. And the report that the Energy Committee is going to present to the floor of the House, I believe is going to address some of the questions that you are raising, including an amendment that I've drafted to the energy bill, the Energy Act, to sort out a few issues in Kenya Power and in the supply of electricity generally. When we interacted with the sector players in the electricity sector, we, at least for me, I was able to isolate what people call engineering problems. For instance, they tell us about system losses of electricity because of the capacity of the transmission lines. They need to build a few lines, Takwero, Oltum, Kitale, Bomet to, Narok to Bomet, then completion of the Mariakani substation to bring geothermal from the rift to the coast. Those are those engineering problems that we're talking about. But there are also Ukora problems. And those are the ones that my bill seeks to address.
Yeah.
We have proposed as a committee that we have an amendment to the Energy Act, so that we deal with 3 issues. The first one on your bill, you know, Kenya Power used to send us an itemized bill, where you could see each and every tax that is going, was coming from your pocket. And when the Senate began that inquiry, they changed the way in which they send you the bill. If you buy purchase tokens of 100 shillings now, they will not tell you what the fuel cost charge is. They're trying to hide these things within other things so that the representatives of the people don't focus on them. So my bill is trying to address 3 things. There's something called a capacity charge, that we pay for the capacity, whether that the capacity of the generating plant, whether that plant is actually selling electricity to Kenya Power or not. And to address that, we have said Kenya Power should not give any more power purchase agreements until the need for that new capacity is established. Number 1. Number 2, there is something called fuel cost charge. The fuel cost charge makes up to, if you buy tokens of 100 shillings, 24 shillings is for fuel cost adjustment. And that is as a result of all the electricity that is consumed that is generated using thermal sources. So we need to grow our green energy sources, and we have said, proposed in that bill, because we have capacity of cheaper green sources of electricity. That person who's called the dispatcher at Kenya Power should give priority to cheaper, greener electricity before dispatching what they call the thermal sources of electricity. And finally, we deal with the question of forex fluctuation by also addressing the question of the denomination of the loans that are used to construct these power plants in foreign currency. So there are things that we are doing as the legislature. There are things that we need to do from a government perspective, like the construction and completion of those lines that I've spoken about. But at least for us in the Energy Committee, and I'm a proud member of that committee together with my colleague Senator Khalwale, we are proposing measures that we think can help to assuage the situation, and we hope that it will receive bipartisan support. That is where the problem always comes.
Charles, what do you think of immediate intervention measures?
No, first of all, I want to congratulate Sifuna. Because now he speaks like somebody who went to the school where Dr. Halwale went.
We know.
Yes, because that is what is expected of a man of his caliber and age, who has a lot of future with him. Because we expect them to discuss some of these problems within the legislative premise that they have, either in Senate or in Parliament. I'm proud when I hear that as a member of the Energy Committee, he's involved in looking at solutions to some of these problems and not carrying sufuria, wasting time in the street and lying to
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Point of order.
So yeah, I also agree with him on the point of order, because that also supports the ego of the people who voted him, whom he said they must cry together, at least so that they get some solace. But let me go back to the issue of our problems. It is important that as a nation, whether in government or in opposition, that we become patriotic to our country and look at our problems objectively. First of all, we must agree that we are in a bad place, as Dr. Halwale puts it. And we must also agree on the factors that there is a general global economic meltdown, which is a problem to all nations in the world, following our problems with COVID-19, following the problems we are now facing in the war in Ukraine, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, we must also agree that the way we had handled our public debt was so bad and was quite careless. Before the former Prime Minister got into handshake, and the Secretary General for his party is here, they really quarreled about issues of overborrowing and so on and so forth, until now when they went to bed together, and that became history. But we cannot be people who keep on crying and going back to mistakes that were made. It's only that we have to agree on how we are going to correct our problems. For example, when we talk about taxation, we must ask ourselves, where did this problem, why did government have to increase tax to the extent that it has happened? Because when you say tying our belts, it also includes, because we always say there is no gain without pain. This government came into place and found the treasury was completely robbed. There was virtually nothing. And that we had very huge debts. That meant that if we could not pay our debts, we could not service our debts, then our economy was going to be insolvent. And we were going to be in a worse situation. I've always told people that at times, you find you can go to a kiosk and get a soda at 30 bob or 40 bob. But you go to Serena and buy a soda at 300 and you don't complain, simply because you have the money. So if I look at the history of the country from the time I was born up to now, cost of items have never been the same. They have always kept on increasing and increasing and increasing. And they're not going to come down. If you look at things like fuel, the number of vehicles we had in 1975 or 1980, and the number of factories, the consumption, the demand was quite low. You can't compare to the demand that we have today. And therefore, this will call for us investing in alternative measures, like what the president was saying the other day. We need to improve on our megawatts in electricity, in terms of wind power, in terms of solar, in terms of generally green energy and hydro that we have. You know very well, under the East African community, we have Congo here with huge falls that maybe if we come together and we agree on the best way as East African community on how we can help. We are told that the kind of power that we can generate would be so much, and that would form an alternative to the problems that we have today. So what happens is that with us having more electricity, we could have more electric vehicles, we could have more electric motorcycles, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, we should ask ourselves, Kenya, I can see you are in a hurry, but just give me a minute. Kenya is in a very, very good geographical location where we are. We have just been doing the port of Mombasa, the port of Lamu under the LAPSSET. Currently, the port where we are carrying out transshipments is deep in the south. The port of Koega is in South Africa, and South Africa is very far from East Africa. Is closer to the direction of the east, that is China, Singapore, and the rest, and also closer to the Middle East, and also closer to Europe through Egypt. But what is happening is that if the port of Mombasa would be able to receive bigger ships, and therefore that means that the transshipment that is currently taking place at port of Koega could easily be transferred into the port of Lamu. And he talked about terrorism issues, the issues we are facing in Lamu and such areas. Those are the things that we should be looking at, and talking about what we call land bridges, having our roads from roads or railways, the road bridges from Kenya to Uganda, to Central Africa, to West Africa, and then to Europe, so that we give an alternative to the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. If that place is blocked, then trade and business is done. That is the same thing they have done from Los Angeles to New York and then to Canada, quite a long distance. So Kenya is in a very good position globally. I heard him talk about Meg. I was so impressed. I saw her trying to sell Kenya in San Francisco the other day. So I know the bitterness he has with Meg, but I'm saying that let us also look at the positive part. No, he's still crying, which is normal. And he told me that he's crying so that he can be able to recover from the shock.
Yes, Sifuna, you're the point of order. By bringing Sifuna.
I think one of the things that we also have to agree is that, you know, under the Leadership in Integrity Act, it is actually a crime for which you should be jailed for a public officer to give false information to the public. So that when William Ruto was deputy president, first you must acknowledge that the debt that we are discussing here was piled up during the period when he was deputy president of the republic from 2013 to 2022. And there has to be some level of responsibility that he takes in that particular problem. Number two, when he was addressing the cost of fuel the last time as deputy president, I remember him speaking outside the deputy president's official residence, flanked by the usual gang that have now ended up as cabinet secretary. And at that particular time, for him, the war in Ukraine had no relation whatsoever to the question of cost of living in this country. Climate change was not a factor for him. In fact, he singled out state capture and cartels within the oil sector as the single reason why Kenyans were paying very high prices at the pump. Now, he is there now. He's there now. He told us that within us, I think it was 90 days, he will destroy all these cartels. And for the first time in the history of this country, fuel is retailing at above 200 shillings. That is the legacy that William Ruto is leaving. So what happened to that story? Where is the sense of responsibility? Will we see Ruto come and say, sorry to the Mwananchi, to the Wanjiku, to the boda person in the Mamamboga, that I lied to you? And that, as David Ndii says, you are fools to have believed my lies. And that now, because, you know, they also claim to be very prayerful people, at the very least, will we see some penance, that they will go for repentance? Can we call a crusade? You know, they like those things. For national repentance for the people who found themselves in power through false pretenses. Can they come to Kenyans and own up and say, yes, we did, we said. These are things he said.
Let him finish.
These are things he said. He's on public record.
Yeah.
At the very minimum, they owe Kenyans an apology. Let them come out and say, yes, we lied to get or to obtain your vote. We don't know what we are doing, but we need help. We need help. And I have told my brothers here off the record that, in fact, this country has a lot of talent. And that talent, we are not saying that you include people from Azimio. No, we are not interested. Even within Kenya Kwanza, there are people who I know for a fact have capacity to do better than people like Moses Kuria and these other clowns that are in public office. So why can't we avail ourselves? Why can't the president avail himself of the talent that is within UDA that we know for a fact are much, much better, can perform better than the people that he has banked on? So what we expect is, at the very minimum, an apology, an acknowledgement that, yes, we fooled you, you are fools, but at the very minimum, we are sorry. Then number two, some of the discussions that are coming from my brother here, I am also very impressed that you have learned very much from Raila, because he was the infrastructure envoy in Africa for the AU. And some of the discussions that we are having here are things that we have seen and spoken about for a very long time. For instance, the question of power from the DRC, it is Baba who was championing the construction of the Inga Dam that would sort out the entire region in terms of the sort of power that we expect to have. We import power from Ethiopia. And by the way, even though it comes all the way from Ethiopia, it is cheaper than some of these IPPs here. It is one of the cheapest. I think they told us it's less than 6 US cents per kilowatt hour. And if you compare with IPPs that are producing here, 4 or 5 times more than that. So it is something to be encouraged, the construction of all those road corridors that he's talking about. If we had gotten this thing right, for instance, Charles, if we had built a proper railway in the manner in which Ethiopia built theirs, a double line, going the whole hog from the port of Mombasa to Malaba, as was envisioned by Baba and Kibaki, instead of the characters we elected in 2013, including your new boss, Ruto. If they had built the railway in the manner in which it had been envisaged, we would be talking a different language. But now, what responsibility?
I think just give me a minute before you go to. There's something I must correct.
Yeah.
You know, Sifuna, President Ruto did not lie. What happened is that President Ruto came to State House, thought the cow and the ndama was there, and found Baba and his brother.
That is not true.
They are taken the ndama and the cow. Are you getting me? There is nothing. Alwale is here, I will tell you. There was nothing left. These guys, these two brothers.
So where's the money for
these two brothers took everything. And also, you know, Sifuna, no Kenyan hates Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He's loved for what he's done before. The only problem is refusing to accept defeat. And he knows why he didn't win. You know, me, Sifuna is his friend, and they are family friend. Me is my brother. I can't change it. Not even brother by being a Luo. We share a great-grandfather.
Oh.
Are you getting me?
He's your relative.
Yes, he's my relative. And it's a fact. He cannot come here and deny it. We share same DNA, and we don't hate him. Yeah. We love him so much, and what we need to do is to unite this country. Sifuna, when we sit separately, he knows how the election was lost. So Sifuna, even when you cry, you...
How was it?
I know, it was stolen.
No.
Come on.
No. Why was yours not stolen?
Mine was not stolen.
No, why was yours not stolen?
Because it is not as consequential as the president.
How was it lost,
Yeah, it is.
How was it?
How was it lost?
Now that you say you people know.
How it was lost? Yeah. They mismanaged their campaigns.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, they never even protected their vote. In fact, they did not even have agents.
Okay.
You see, if we
even today, but let's not go there. Let's not go there.
But let's
no.
Let me just ask him one question. Owino, why is there a need to protect votes? From what? Why does anyone need to protect votes?
Why do you need a server?
No, I'm just asking you.
My question is,
why do you need to protect votes?
Fine.
Against what?
Why do we have a server?
No, a server is just a technological advancement to collect
results. Is it for protection?
No, that's what I'm asking you.
No. Is it for protection?
It's not for protection. I'm asking you, why in an electoral system that is supposed to be free and fair, why do I need agents? Why? Why do I need agents in an election?
Why is it in our process we need to take records?
I think his point is if it was right and credible, you would not need to have some.
Why do you have a watchman in your house?
Because they are thieves. Because they are thieves.
Yes.
And electoral thieves, if you are not vigilant, they end up in the place that you are. That's what we are saying. You are thieves. You stole the election.
But the Supreme Court disagrees with that.
Your party did not even carry out nomination.
Let's bring in
Goja. Excuse me, I was with him.
Yeah.
His party did not even carry out nomination.
What do you mean? I'm the SG of ODM. We carried out nomination.
Where? I was a candidate.
You lost the nomination.
I did not.
Alwale, we were talking about...
And you know what you did.
We know we are deviating from the conversation.
No, we are not deviating. Let him just be told.
The possible solutions.
Let him accept defeat. Now. The election was not stolen. He won his...
That was settled by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Alwale, you're talking about an economic stimulus package. How would that work? Because I remember the government has talked about not subsidizing consumption and just subsidizing production. How would this economic stimulus package that you're talking about, how would it work, considering that the supplementary budget is coming in October, right? Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad that you have managed to stop them from digressing. we are talking about serious national issues of the cost of living, and they have gone into the debate of the election, which was concluded by the pronouncement by the Supreme Court.
We are sorry.
Earlier on in my days on this panel, we used to quarrel with Sifuna on a very important issue. I used to beg him, please, forget about demonstrations, forget about press conferences. You have a better platform, i.e. Parliament. Let us address most of these issues in Parliament. I'm glad Sifuna has changed.
Very good.
And now Sifuna is on that trajectory. The great ideas he has raised, emanating from his own personal industry and also from our Committee of Energy and Senate in general, is the way to go. You'll remember before that Damascus moment in him, he was supporting some leaders of his coalition who are urging Kenyans that the solution on lowering the high price of fuel was to walk to work. That avoid taking buses, just walk to work. That could never be the solution. And now, back to the question you have raised. When we say economic stimulus, it is not some new animal. As I said earlier on in this debate, President Mwai Kibaki used it in many sectors, agriculture, education, and so on. I would like Kenyans to know that the issue of economic stimulus, we are already speaking and walking the talk. One, the issue of housing. The issue of housing is actually an economic stimulus. When you build those houses, you create jobs, and when you pay these people, they have money in their pockets, including disposable income. You have stimulated the economy. The industrial parks that we are opening is an economic stimulus. How? Because now the farm produce that used to be sold and processed through the industrial parks, now the farmers have an opportunity there at home to do value addition so that they get more on their produce. The next point I want to make is on the issue of alternative sources of energy, if we have to first fix the cost of living. Senator Sifuna, I know you are very up to it in issues of current affairs. You know that while in the US, where the president is presently, he has been able to unlock $60 million US, the equivalent of 8.7 billion Kenyan shillings, to now fix an area where we lose so much revenue, i.e. public transport in the city of Nairobi and the city of Mombasa. What does he want to do? The 8.7 billion shillings is going to go for procuring of electric buses. And until we do rapid mass transport of the workforce in these two cities, we will continue losing that money. The president held a meeting with the CEO, Alice Albright, you saw, and this has been signed, and that's the way to go. You go to any city in the world, they have electric buses, and it responds to very serious wastage of resources through traffic jams and so on and so forth. Finally, may I thank Owino for your thoughts on alternative routes to world markets. The only route we have through the Red Sea is so limiting. Until we open up alternative routes to Europe, alternative routes to the Western world, we must accept that these challenges will live with us, and if we don't do anything about it, our generations to come.
Okay.
Let me tell you, because of the civil war in Sudan, if you have traveled recently, now to go to Heathrow or Amsterdam, the plane has to make two decisions. Because you now can't cross the way we used to go directly. When you leave Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, if they choose, they go to West Africa. Then having gone to West Africa is when they climb now to go into Amsterdam or go into Heathrow. Alternatively, they go to Arabia. You go to Arabia, you reach Arabia, then once you are in Arabia is when now you climb back to go to Heathrow and Amsterdam. Okay. So if we had alternative routes, as carefully described by my brother Owino here, whereby we can transit our goods across the African continent, go to the West, choose to go to the Americas, or choose to go to Europe, this would be the case. Okay. The only thing that is worrying me is when I hear my brother Sifuna now credit that to Baba, that he was, I don't know, minister for some African infrastructure. Please, that was a phantom job. Okay. It was a phantom job that was supposed to massage the ego of Baba.
Let's start with
because Baba is the handshake.
I'll to respond also, but let's start with some basics. You two are in the Energy Committee. Here's some few facts, okay? The landing cost of super petrol, as we speak, is 115 shillings and 93 cents.
115?
Okay? Landing cost, 115 shillings and 93 cents. And this was explained very well by Yvonne Okwara on the explainer. Diesel landing cost is 117 shillings and 63 cents. Kerosene landing cost is 123 shillings and 78 cents. But there are 9 different taxes that then shoot up the price to 211, all within your reach if you bring in any amendments to bring them down. We have the excise duty, you have the road maintenance levy, we have the petroleum development levy, we have the petroleum regulatory levy, we have the railway development levy, we have the anti-adulteration levy, merchant shipping levy, import declaration fee, and then there's VAT. If any of you would bring amendments, these are things within your reach. Why wouldn't you do this?
Now, Trevor, that is the point that I was making.
I thought the question was mine.
Yeah, you will both answer it because you're both in the energy committee.
That is the point that I was making. When we spoke about CS Chirchir saying nothing can be done, we disagree with him. And this was the discussion during the finance bill. Unfortunately for me and Halwale, we sit in the Senate where we cannot initiate or discuss these money bills. But as leaders, I have lended my voice on this show everywhere that I have spoken and tried to convince our brothers that in fact something can be done to reduce the cost of fuel. But they have refused because this money, these taxes that they're collecting is what is going for the entertainment bill of 2 billion shillings at State House. When Charles Owino tells us about finding the coffers empty, which is one of the biggest lies. One of the first things that happened, Charles Owino, when your government was sworn in, there was an allocation of almost, was it 800 million shillings for purchase of vehicles for the office of Musalia Mudavadi, Gachagua, and Ruto. 800 million shillings. Where did that money come from to buy cars? If you found the coffers empty, what is funding all this, lifestyle that we're talking about here? So let's address some of the things that Khalwale has also mentioned. He'll talk about the taxes and whether he, as a leader in Kenya Kwanza, can convince his government or his leadership to reduce some of those taxes. Just even the VAT alone, I said 14 shillings, if you reduce 14 shillings on the price of fuel, you have helped Kenyans. Now, he has alluded to the fact that Sifuna has changed. First of all, I will never change, Trevor. I am who I am and I am the way that I am. I will never, ever down the rights that have been given to me under Article 37 of the Constitution. I am not a one-trick pony, Khalwale. I can do many things at the same time, depending on the environment that I find myself in. Even if today we are unable to convince you in the bipartisan talks and we decide we're going back to the streets, I ride with my sufuria in my car. When we leave here, Trevor, that sufuria that I wear on my head is still in my car because at any moment, at very short notice, I might be required to be in the streets. And that is what my constitution guarantees me. So it's not about being a one-trick pony. You can do many tricks depending on the environment. Halwale, you and me have this relationship where we can talk. The way that you approach me or the way that I approach you determines how and which tool I pick up. If you come with a stone, like you did in Kibera, you also found out that I also have stones, you know. So, but if you sit in your nice suit like this, the way we sit in the energy committee, and we say, let us look at the issues that affect Kenyans, we come up with legislation. So it is not to say that Sifuna has changed, and I will never change. I want to give that assurance to Kenyans.
We say you have
Finally, there is this question of public transportation that he has alluded to, the president signing a bill on electric vehicles. First of all, the problem has never been the fuel that we are using. Because even if you transfer the problem, the bus today is using diesel, you are unable to afford diesel. You transfer it to electricity, and the electricity cost has gone up 63% since you people took power. What are you telling Kenyans? And Khalwale did a very nice public participation in his constituency. He tried to convince those border boys, people who have maybe gone halfway, three-quarter way of paying their loans for the petrol motorcycles that they have right now. Then Khalwale tried to convince them that the president is going to bring them these electric motorcycles. You know what happened? They were not interested in those stories. First of all, we sort out the infrastructure, Khalwale. Even if you're bringing these electric buses, to which roads are you bringing them? We had this discussion about bus rapid transport for years. If you go to cities like Dar es Salaam, you don't have to go to Amsterdam like Khalwale. You know, that is too far for me. Because of me, I rotate around the East African region. In Dar es Salaam, they have one of the best BRTs. They built separate lanes. What we try to do on Thika Road is to annex an existing lane and paint it red. That was done under the Jubilee government, which Ruto was part of. There's never been a government called Handshake. We know the Jubilee government of William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. So first you sort out the infrastructure. You go to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. They built a light rail across Addis for 45 billion shillings. And I have argued here, for instance, that if we had a government, a national government that had goodwill, we, the people of Nairobi, are owed over 100 billion shillings by national government institutions in terms of unpaid rates. If we had a president who was somebody who supports devolution, Khalwale has lied here that all the counties have money. It's a lie. The counties have not received money. And you're lying. Nairobi has not gotten money. We have not paid suppliers for months. So if we had a government that is foresight, a government with foresight, they would tell us that because we owe you people in Nairobi 100 billion shillings, let us give you 45 billion like was used in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, but we ring-fence it for the construction of the light rail across Nairobi. That is helping Nairobians. But for you to tell us now you are transferring to electric buses, there are bus companies, people have taken loans, they have invested. Some of the investment has not paid back. And then you tell them now, we are going to bring competition in terms of electric buses. You have not sorted out the roads. Okay. You are not helping the people of Nairobi. Right. And even when you say, oh, we were supporting our coalition's calls for people to walk, Khalwale, even without being told right now, people are walking to work because it's not Raila speaking now. It's their pockets. It's their pockets. They can't afford. People have left their vehicles at home. People are trying to, save an extra coin because fuel has become unaffordable. So these are issues that we have to look at in the broader context. Don't just tell us that, oh, we have signed an agreement. That is a private agreement for a private US company to make money in Kenya. It is not helping Kenya.
Yes. Good. I think I've heard my brother very well. If you misheard me, I did not mean to say you have changed. I was saying you have improved. You have improved. You have now appreciated that whereas you thought those public demonstration press conferences in Parliament were good, but you have found something better.
No,
but it still has
that's not what
Sifuna, relax.
That's not what
Sifuna, be a good man.
All these platforms are available.
Let him finish. Let him finish. Yeah. Sifuna. Let him finish.
You have improved, yeah. And I congratulate you for this. The issue you raise about the landing costs,
yes,
and what it is that we are doing as Parliament on the taxation message. Let me remind Kenyans that the finance bill, which is currently the Finance Act 2023, has a shelf life. Finance acts are designed such that they have a shelf life of only 12 months. Now, that shelf life is such that some of the lessons that we are now learning out of the taxation measures will inform Finance Bill 2024.
So they just suffer for this year?
No, I'm going on. I'm going on, sir.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So it will inform the Finance Bill of 2024. You cannot just sit there and do nothing. There is no government in the world, including the government in Vatican City, which is a holy government, that does not tax people. Even in the Vatican, people pay taxes. The debate should be and must be how those taxes are used. I have refused to live a lie. Everything that I do in Nairobi, everything that I support nationally, I always test it on the ground. As he has said correctly, I was in my home base, not just Kakamega, not just Ikolomani, but in Malinya.
Yeah.
Where I had assembled all the border borders and all the bullfighters in their thousands.
Yeah.
And I was socializing with them. And one thing they don't want to wait for are long-term solutions.
Yeah.
They want instant. So when I broke out the news to them that the president has negotiated an innovation of electric buses, they don't want to wait for that. They want the pump price to go down today at the petrol station in Malinya.
Yeah.
I agree with them because there must be food in the evening. We should use platforms like this, my brother Sifuna, especially you and I. You have one of the highest population. In fact, you have the highest population of border transporters in Kenya. We should speak to our people and tell them it's a question of innovation. Years ago, boda boda was actually a bicycle. There would be this young man carrying this very fat person, and he would struggle and struggle. They reach a hill, he requests the passenger to alight so that they walk together and they continue. But Kibaki became innovative. He removed taxes for importation of motorbikes, and there came the innovation of boda boda being the current ones. So now, going into an electric motorcycle is innovative because you charge the battery for 90 minutes and it is going to serve a vehicle for 200 kilometers. It is going to serve a boda boda for 300 kilometers. So the innovation we are going in, and I've already started socializing my circles. I've got a big circle in Kakamega called the Kakamega Boda Boda Circle, which I've done for them. I'm now socializing them that here is an opportunity of business. How? Go to the Hustlers Fund. It allows you to borrow between 100,000 and 1 million shillings now as a circle. Pick the money, buy for Shinyalu constituency, all the 12 constituencies, a central place where we shall do charging with 100 batteries per piece. So that because children don't have power in their homes, he'll be coming with the battery which he used the previous day, deposits at the charging place, pays 100 bob, he's given a battery and goes to work. In the process, he's able to ride for 300 kilometers, make his profit, more profit than if he was fueling with petrol, and he'll be happy. So it is this innovation. Electric motorbike is now the innovation of the future of the boda boda truck.
All right, let me bring in some feedback, then I'll come to you, Charles, as we wind up on this conversation. Let's bring up the feedback now. Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya is the hashtag Daybreak. There's a lot coming through. Let's bring that up on screen really fast and see what you're saying here online. And Kipto Ruto says the government appears to have limited options for lowering cost of living. However, the opposition should refrain from claiming that if they were in power, fuel prices would be lower, especially since they haven't presented any concrete recommendations on the matter. Dixon says when Moses Kuria insulted media 3 months ago and he was vehemently supported by none other than the appointing authority. Bob Otieno Wino says the reckless talks of Honorable Moses Kuria and David Ndii are the tactics government uses to divert attention from Kenyans, especially on high cost of fuel, and this kind of behavior we have witnessed even from the last regime. Agumba Steve says Kalwale is on record for having initiated Kimunya must go. As a Kolomani MP, when issues of mistrust arose and sure he went. He can as well initiate Kuria must go, and will support him fully before using the voice with our influence. I
hope Kuria is following.
Says, translating sweet propagandas into reality is what's now haunting Ruto regime. Rewarding talkative, incompetent cronies with key positions for driving an economy is another blunder Mr. Wino will not be able to succeed in defending. Babu Michael says this arrogance by our leaders, most so political leaders, is not new. They have been doing it and making irresponsible utterances with no action being taken. The responsible authorities are toothless. What serious action have they taken? Nothing. Okelo Mwalimu says the sufferings we're going through as a result of having an insensitive government don't need justifications, but apologies and fixes. If nothing is done now, Kenya will soon become a destitute state. Government must avoid unnecessary spending and use the money in lowering cost of living. Sir Nixon says the president has been out of the country for a long time now, and maybe he has benchmarked a lot. Let's wait for him. He might change tact in our majority's favor. Godi Baraza says it has now begun to hit worrying levels for our nation because the controller of budget says we have already surpassed our requisite debt ceiling. The state of the nation is in a shaky shape. Alex Wanyandarwa says, in my own view, Kuria seems to be enjoying certain immunity from somewhere, because how can a CS go to an extent of even responding to the deputy president? Tell our friend Halwale to just sit and watch, because I don't see any action being taken against Kuria. Dumbori says overtaxation burdens prosperity and stifles a nation's economic growth. Defending it restrains citizens' aspirations and innovation, hindering progress. Kenya Minde says the president should not sack David Ndii. Let him remain there and mulika the ills and excessive spending of this government. Okay. Atanas Mavuti, the last one here, says the government is not getting it right when it comes to cost of fuel. You can't say you are lowering cost of living and at the same time you are increasing the cost of fuel. Kenyans are suffering and some government officials are showing arrogance, not good at all. All right? Tikasan Lash says the government must come out and address the high cost of living. Arrogant leaders like Kuria and D must be called out. We voted them in and they have the responsibility to fulfill what they promised us. The issues is almost getting out of hand. Let the president speak. I believe that's what you wanted to say. Okay. Oh, we know. Closing remarks now. We're running out of time.
It's okay. I'm happy that the Finance Act 2023 has a life of 12 months and that it was a stopgap measure. Senator was asking me where the 800 million for buying cars came from. It was just daily collections. But I still remain, the treasury they left empty. Walikula pesa pamoja wakifanya campaign. Lakini that is now past. We now need to forge ahead and work together. I like most of the sentiments that he has come up with, trying to get solutions to the problems that we have. But most importantly is we need to work together as a nation to ensure that we are able to raise as much money as possible to ensure that people have as much money as possible in their pockets through business and other factors. I give an example of one of the most challenging matters which were in the finance bill, like the housing levy, the 1.5%. Most people did not understand what it was because you find that a civil servant, you could be deducted, let's say, 4,000 shillings, 2,000 from yourself and 2,000 from the employer. That amounts to 4,000 per month, and that is 48,000 per. That is 48,000 per year. 10 years is only 480,000. 20 years is only 960,000. That cannot enable you purchase a house. But the program is such that you find that government provides land for free, whether it is in the counties, like maybe where they've now started in Homa Bay, or in Nairobi, some of these areas. When government provides land for free, you find that almost 70% of the cost of the house, or let's say 60%, goes on land. Okay. And equally, this money that has been collected, let's say 9 billion per month, is money that is not taxed. So you find a house that would otherwise have costed a civil servant 12.5 million is sold at 3.5 million. Okay. It's ongoing. It's something that was partially even, the low-cost housing was even done by President Uhuru, though he did not succeed to implement the housing levy. Okay. But you find that this civil servant, in 20 years, he could still not raise even $1 million bob. Yeah. But this house, which would have costed him 12.5 million, would now cost him 3.5. He can take a loan and purchase it. This will ensure that people have houses. And even areas where we have a lot of pressure in land like Kisii, most people can now decide to live in Kisii town or in Nyamira if we have low-cost houses, and then transform their small land, instead of subdividing it as a family, use it for agriculture. Okay. But what I want to say is that if we work together, both government and opposition, and these policies that the president has tried to bring in, including the Hustler Fund and so on, we will be able to resuscitate this economy. We'll be able to make more money, many people in business, and most of these structures put in place will be able to generate us high revenue. Okay. I think next time maybe we'll have an opportunity to discuss on, have time to discuss on the programs that government has put in place that will be able to resuscitate the economy. All right. But for Sifuna, he must still discredit government as much as possible, because always opposition is government in waiting. I wish him best of luck. But I know what will happen is that the government, the economy is going to recover. The next 3-4 years, I think some of these discussions will not be there. Okay, Sifuna.
Charles, God hates a lying tongue. You people make us wish for the God of the Old Testament. that would just strike you with lightning right now for lying to Kenyans. You come out and you tell people that this finance bill, you're happy because it lasts only 12 months. 12 months of suffering, your economic advisor is telling us it will achieve nothing. It is suffering for suffering's sake. You acknowledge yourself that even that levy, the housing levy, we will not be able to purchase houses with it. But you're insisting on deducting it from Kenyans. That money could have gone to do something else.
I thought you went to
raise the... No, let me
Why
just...
have you not listened to my explanation?
You tell people that the hustler thing will be a hustler grant. You will give people money for them to lift themselves. Then you come and convert it into a fund. And you're very proud to say, oh, this is what we have achieved. My brother, I'm telling you, we wish the God of Leviticus would show up on this regime so that it strikes you with lightning immediately you lie to Kenyans. You people need to repent. What happened to those crusades used to call for repentance?
We are doing well.
Because you cannot be the same tongues, the same people who come to lie to Kenyans, and then when things go haywire, you have no clue what you're supposed to do or what you're doing. Then you say, oh, Sifuna must criticize government. It's not about criticism. I have said on this show that, Charles, please sort out the people so that we remain, me and you and Halwale, we deal with our issues at the political level. Whether I am crying about election results, and I have asked you, the tears are mine. They are mine. What is wrong with me crying my own tears? You have your own. So why does it bother you? Secondly, Trevor, I want to tell my brother Halwale that I am a firm believer in green energy. As a young legislator, I have come to appreciate that the challenges that face our planet for now, including the question of climate change, we must always think about innovative ways in which we can continue to provide mobility to our people. But the questions I'm asking myself, Halwale, and that is what was the problem in my view with your people in Malinya. You are telling people who are halfway or three-quarter way or have just started paying loans on the motorbikes that they currently operate. Many of these people, I speak to mine here in Nairobi, most of them don't even own those motorbikes. They are slaves to these credit companies. They have to pay 3,500 shillings per day to the owner of the motorbike or to the credit company. They can't afford it. So how much is that electric bike? Don't tell us about the rosy bit of building a charging station in Malinya. And Halwale, can't you see the irony? You acknowledging that your own people in their houses, they don't have electricity, but you want to build them something there to charge motorbicycles. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Let us look at the economic impact of this. The people who need to transition. What program have you put in place for the people who own these motorbikes currently, for them to transition to green energy? What is the cost of that motorbike? What is going to be the financing model for those things? So you don't just say people are not averse to new technology or to innovation, but it must make economic sense for them. And I hope to God that this is not another lie. You know, I think, I don't know. There are not many things that the Bible say God hates, but this one of a lying tongue, like the one of Charles Owino and William Ruto. God hates those tongues.
Okay. Closing remarks. And Senator Beatrice Elachi is saying, morning, Trevor, kindly ask them what happened to the BRT program, or are we starting again?
That's a good question. They drew a red line on Thika Road and said this is BRT.
I would like to appeal to my brother Sifuna to realize that if he does not understand an issue, it's good either to listen so that he understands it better or to go and do further research. He knows how. The agreement that has released 8.7 billion for the bus rapid transport is not meant to buy buses, electric buses.
That's what you said.
Wait, can listen to me. Sifuna, calm down.
I'm very calm, but that's what you said, Halwale.
It is not intended to buy electric buses so that they ask matatus to get out of town. What BRT means is that a system of transport is going to be put here in the city and in Mombasa, whereby on the road there'll be electric wires, and that wire is then connected on the bus. Okay, Sifuna knows it. So this bus runs on that electric wire.
Which bus?
These
Githurai buses that we see.
No.
If you are not buying new buses,
can I help you? Can I help you understand?
The Githurai 44 bus.
Can I help you so that you understand what you don't understand? So, these buses, because they are running on that electric line, bus rapid transport, they then carry more people.
Oh my God.
in a faster time. The reason why you have this congestion in the city is because matatu people are taking advantage of the business opportunity. The moment you have transported people in mass and rapidly, that business opportunity is the people will go and do that business elsewhere. They will now do transit people between towns and between cities. But we want to unlock the traffic jams in Nairobi. If I was running for governor of Nairobi, I would actually become the governor and give these people of Nairobi a big gift. If you remove the congestion in Nairobi, if you are able to help the people who walk on foot from 4 a.m. in the morning to come to industrial area so that they don't have to start at 4 a.m., they'll jump onto the electric bus, rapid transport, and in 20 minutes, they're at place of work. They don't have to wake up in the night. Then you'll have responded to their problem and nobody would beat you. Okay. Now, if the president has secured 8.7 billion, Sifuna, you must know that from shareable revenue, the governor of Nairobi gets almost 20 billion shillings. Okay? So if 8.7 can fix this serious problem, he can spread it on a scale of 3 years, and the problem of mass, not the problem, the need for mass transport of people will become a reality. But anyway, thank the national government, it is doing it for him.
Okay.
We have to think and practice the best world methods.
Okay.
The best method of handling transport in all cities in the world is rapid mass transport.
Can I explain the bus rapid transport?
No, we've run out of time, Sifuna.
Khalwale doesn't know what bus rapid transport.
We've really run out of time now, so we really have to close it.
Okay, maybe next time we start.
We shall start from there.
How it becomes rapid. I will explain it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have to leave it there. Coming up next is
But you've seen it.
All right.
You've seen it.